right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Friday. Happy Friday to everyone out there. It is May 19th, and we have a full MLB slate to jump into today. We're going to go through each and every game. I'll give you my leans and thoughts on the games, but my final plays will be in the pinned comment. Coming off of another night in which we're in the red, Aaron Judge saves us with our player prop. We post that as a short and then put it in the pinned comments, guys, but we lose the Nationals and the Rays on the money line. Aaron Judge again for plus 150 hits his over RBI there, and luckily, I mean, we've been on a bad stretch, and I feel like it's funny that, when you're doing so poorly, especially in a YouTube realm, right, in social media with like toxic social media, when you're doing poorly, it's like everyone comes out of the woodworks to tell you how poorly you're doing. Like, people are updating me on my records for the day, right, like 0-2, 1-2, it's like, okay, thank you for the update. I'm well aware of what my record was that day. Where are you when we're going 3-0 or 4-1 or 5-0? Where are you on those days? Oh, that's what I thought. You're a bad weather hater. You know what I mean? So, guys, I laugh at it. Any comment's a good comment. If you're commenting something, I'd rather, you comment a hate comment than just have this video not affect you at all. You know what I mean? And what do I always tell you guys? They don't boo nobody. So, you know what? If you're booing me, it means that I'm making you feel some type of way, which is my goal with these videos, to at least impact people on a daily basis. So I laugh in the face of the hate, guys. I love you guys just as much as the true supporters. That's not true. I love the real fans the most, guys. But yeah, guys, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. We could go 0-15 in one day, and I'm still going to show up here next day doing the video, all right? So no matter how much you hate, you're not going to get what you want. In fact, it's probably just going to make you hate me a little bit more coming in here and laughing in your face. So, guys, we're so positive on the season. Once we get to a negative point on the season, units-wise and record-wise, then I'll kind of entertain, like, okay, we got to switch something up. We got to switch something up. We're not doing this right. You know what I mean? But we've had a bad week. It's kind of as simple as that. Like, every bettor knows you go through these rough weeks, and if you let that affect you or let it kind of stop you from doing your own process and your normal research process and everything like that, then you're not going to be good long term. You got to be able to trust your instincts throughout these bad stretches, which is what we'll continue to do here. So yeah, enough of the rant, but I did just want to call attention to it. And I know the people that actually enjoy the video say, oh, don't give the haters the time of day. Guys, it's all right. They're human just like you. They're human just like me. We're all human. It's all good. But let's go ahead and get into this game. Before we do, I got to give a big ol' shout out to yesterday's ride of the day, coming in from a baller, Matthew here. His ride of the day was Shohei Ohtani over 0.5 hits and parlaying with Bo Bichette over 0.5 hits. I mean, they both go yabo. They both go deep, guys. We should have parlayed their home runs together. I was talking to Matthew via Instagram DMs, guys, which I want to talk about Instagram in just a second because we have a giveaway going on that I imagine if you parlay those home run props, you could have quit your job for the rest of the year there. But yeah, shout out to the ride of the day. If you do want to be the ride of the day, guys, go ahead and drop a fire pick in the comments. Give me an absolute banger. Hashtag ride of the day in that comment, and I will be jumping on board with one person's pick, win or loss, and giving you guys a shout out, win or loss, in the next video, guys. So go ahead and drop that. But let's go ahead and jump into this. I know I'm rambling. We're talking too much. We got Pittsburgh taking on Arizona here. Pittsburgh has won 2 of their last 3 games here, coming out of taking 2 of 3 against Oakland. So I do want to put the caveat there, and I guess the context there that it was Oakland, Detroit and Baltimore. Arizona's coming off of 2 of 3 against Oakland. So both these teams coming off playing bad teams. You know what I mean? I don't want to put too much weight into their record as of late. I'd rather look back for Arizona, back towards their Giants series where they won 3 straight to end that series after losing game 1. So both these teams, I don't really love this game altogether. You're looking at Arizona at minus 180 on the money line, which is a little bit too much. Now, Arizona's made us some money as of late. I understand that. I like their pitcher on the mound today, Zach Gallen, 6-1 with a 2.35 ERA, and he's been crushing it as of late too. His last 2 games has been under a 1 whip. So, I mean, you got to give credit where it's due, but I don't think that the minus 180 is at all worth it. Like I said, coming off of taking 2 of 3 against Oakland, whoop-de-doo. Like, I could take 2 of 3 against Oakland and play all 9 positions. So I don't necessarily love the 180 odds here. What I don't mind in this game is going to be the over. It's at 7.5 right now. Now, Gallen's on the mound. I think that he's going to obviously prevent this this Pirates team from scoring. Pittsburgh was on an absolute scoring drought for just about, 12 games before they did go ahead and drop 8 runs in their last game against Detroit, where they win 8-0. But that's just a that's a one run or one game type of run line there. I don't necessarily think that their offense is clicking or ready to go, so that's going to make the over tough. But 7.5 runs, if Pittsburgh can put up 2 to 3 runs, I think that Arizona is going to be able to carry the weight here and put up 5 to 6 runs. So hopefully we're looking at a big day from Arizona. On the mound for Pittsburgh, I should mention that is going to be Oviedo. He's 2-3 with a 5.14 ERA. So I do think that this is an over spot, but again, it's kind of a bad game to start things off with, as I don't love it all that much. Next game, we have Tampa Bay taking on the Brewers here. We don't have a money line. It is early when we're recording this, a money line or a total as of, up-to-date total or money line yet. It did open up. Now, this was yesterday when it opened up at Milwaukee plus 145 on the road on the money line and Tampa Bay minus 175 because McClanahan is going for the Rays. He's 7-0 with a 2.34 ERA. I don't hate them in this spot, and talking about the Rays, obviously this Brewers team, has won us money on the season, but they've kind of been on a slide and lost us our last couple games. Tampa Bay is coming off of 2 straight losses to the Mets here. They lose 8-7, then they lose 3-2 yesterday, which is obviously one of our losses as well. I expect them in a bounce back spot here, especially with McClanahan on the mound. Minus 175, a little bit too much to be paying, but we'll see what those lines come out at, or those odds come out at when we get an updated line. Again, we don't have an update as of right now. Those were just updates literally as of like 14 hours ago or 12 hours ago. So I don't want to put too much weight into it. I do lean Tampa Bay, and I don't hate them in a parlay today, which kind of leads me into my next point, guys. We're going to be doing a parlay of the day. So a Friday parlay, I'll be putting that in the pinned comment as well. It'll just probably be a money line, some totals involved, but we're looking for a decent payoff. So maybe like, plus 200 or longer, which would be kind of crazy. So keep an eye on that, guys. Let me know if you're going to ride with the Friday parlay. Again, it's just for fun. You should know parlays are just for fun. In fact, even when you take long shot, like even with the Aaron Judge RBI last night, plus 150, like you shouldn't expect that to hit. You should trust your numbers, trust the analytics that it's a smart bet and has a decent payout. But Vegas has things as plus money for a reason, right? So keep an eye on the pinned comment for the parlay of the day here, the Friday parlay. But let's keep the train moving. All right, the Reds hosting the Yankees here. Reds, big-time dogs, which makes sense. They're plus 155 on the money line here at home. Total sitting at 10.5 run. New York coming off of taking 3 of 4 against Toronto, in which most of those games, in fact, the 3 that they won, they were underdogs. The only game that they lost was when Garrett Cole was on the mound, and they were slight favorites there. Cincinnati coming off of losing 2 of 3 against Colorado, which I do still think is one of the worst series that we've seen this season. New York's won 7 of their last 3. Now, minus 161 isn't really gonna, get me going here, but I don't hate them on the run line. I will throw in the caveat that Cincinnati's been a good run line team when underdogs. They've covered that in 7 of their last 10, but I'm looking at the recency bias, or I'm being recency biased here when I look at New York here. When they are minus 1.5, so favorites in games, they've covered that in 3 of their last 4 games. So when they're winning as of late, they are winning by a couple runs when obviously going into the game as favorites. And like I said, they played good baseball against Toronto, so maybe they're finding something. They're still have plenty of injuries. Like if you look at their actual injury report, Giancarlo Stanton, Donaldson, right? Like they have plenty of guys that are injured that would be playing pretty much day in and day out for them. But nonetheless, they still have a lot of their main guys. Obviously, Judge specifically, he came back a couple weeks ago, went yard last night, cashed for us there. I still think that this is a better team. So I entertain, Yankees minus 161 over on FanDuel right now on money line. I don't love it all that much because it's a lot of juice to be paying, but I really don't hate New York on the run line minus 1.5. Then we're looking at a total of 10.5 here. Now, Cincinnati is the team that is going to worry me in this one. They have been literally like a roller coaster in runs scored. They go 7 runs, 1 runs, 8 runs, 3 runs, 6 runs. What's next? And at the top of the roller coaster, they're going to come down. I don't necessarily think they put up a bunch of runs today, so I am going to slightly lean towards the under 10.5 there, because this Yankees team, yes, their offense has started to get it going, but even still, they're not like blowing anyone out of the water. They've scored 7, 6, 4 runs, but they also had a 0-run game there within that Toronto series, so worth keeping in mind. But two good pitchers were on the mound in there. But, even if this offense goes out and scores, say, 6 to 7 runs, can we guarantee that Cincinnati doesn't go up there and just score 2 or 3? No. So I do think this is a New York game here, and I also like the under. All right, the Phillies taking on the Cubs. I don't know what to make of this. I have become somehow like a Chicago Cubs fanboy at the wrong time. They cashed for us probably twice earlier in the year, and I was like, all right, this team's getting good odds. They're cashing. I like the pitching that they have, right? And yet they just keep losing. They have lost 5 straight games. They've lost 8 of their last 10 games. Philadelphia, not much better. They've lost 4 straight games as well. On the mound again here, or on the mound for the Cubs, as they are again underdogs, is Marcus Stroman. Ranger Suarez on the mound for the Phillies. He's got a 6.75 ERA, but Stroman over here, 2-4 with a 3.24 ERA. And I kind of feel for the guy. They're just not getting run support. Now, last game, he only pitched 2 1/3 and let up 6 earned runs. He just didn't have his stuff. But prior to that, he's holding opponents down to 2 runs, to 1 run, and they're scoring 1 run for him. So I am going to, one more time, guys, one more time. The Psycho Alert alarm is for me, not for the pick, because I think it's actually a fine pick, but for me, because if I don't hit this Cubs money line here, I'm going to go insane. Now, we'll see if I end up rolling with it. I do think it is going to be a final play. You're getting plus, like I said, around plus 110 odds and whatnot. I do think that this is a good spot with their ace on the mound and playing a team that's also kind of struggling to some degree as well. We'll see if it pays off, but I think I might put the Cubs in the graveyard if they don't hit today. So I'm going to lean their money line. And then in terms of the total, 9 runs. I don't necessarily know where to come out on this one. Let me know if you do have a strong feeling on the total in the comments. But this one, I feel like if it was 8.5, I'd be looking at the over. If it was 9.5, I'd be looking at the under. They put it right at 9, and now I'm kind of like, all right, I feel like this is a 5-4 type ball game or something like that. So I am going to stick away from the total on this one. No real ultimate lean there. All right, Washington taking on Detroit. Not very excited about this one either. You have Washington as plus 105 dogs here at home. Total sitting at 9 runs. Detroit's coming off of taking 2 of their last 3. They split against they split against the Pirates here, and then they also won their last game against Seattle. Washington getting swept by Miami. We did have Nationals money line yesterday for plus money. That didn't work out. What I do like about the Nationals here at home and being underdogs is Jake Irvin on the mound. I don't mind him. He's 1-1 with a 4.17 ERA. I don't necessarily back him altogether, but he had he's had some decent games this season. Last game out, I think he had a lot of strikeouts, if I'm not mistaken. I could be swapping his last with his second to most recent start, but he had a lot of strikeouts, but let up a lot of runs. But the starts prior to that, he was kind of, dealing there, pitching deep into games with fewer in runs there. But Boyd on the mound is not looking all that great in his last few. Only pitching 1 1/3 in his last start. But prior to that, he did have a good start. But then the game before that, so it's 2 of his last 3 games. I'm saying that correctly. Yes, 2 of his last 3 games, he's kind of blown up. And maybe the Washington Nationals can kind of get to him today. This offense, only putting up around 2 to 4 runs as of late, so hopefully that increases. But again, this is just kind of a long shot lean towards an underdog at home when I do think they have a slight pitching advantage just today. So nonetheless, I don't love this game all that much. We have a total of 9 runs. I'm going to look at the under just because I don't think that these 2 offenses really are secure right now. All right, the Blue Jays taking on the Orioles here. Blue Jays at home, decent favorites, minus 145 now at home on the money line on DraftKings here. Kikichi on the mound for them. They have gotten a win in his last 2 starts. He has 1 win in the last 2 starts there. If he goes the distance or he goes deep into the game, I would say 6+ innings. I think they look good, but when he's been pitching only 4 innings or so, they do tend to struggle. Gibson on the mound for the Orioles. In their last 3 games here, he has 3 losses. He's letting up a decent amount of runs. Kansas City, Tampa Bay, I'll give credit for, and Pittsburgh. 2 of those 3 losses aren't all that great, but it makes sense. They've kind of adjusted that line accordingly. Toronto minus 145, like I said. I am going to lean in that direction. I'm taking the big favorite here at home. We have a total of 9.5 runs as well. I think this one actually does stick under. I think that Toronto obviously showed, that they've struggled to hit the ball in 3 of those 4, actually probably all 4 of those games, I would say, against the Yankees. And Baltimore, though they could put up 7-5 runs any given moment, like I said, Kikichi's pitching decently as of late, so I am going to kind of trust that he can let them up, at least starting, maybe 5 innings, 2 earned runs, which is you know what I mean, and then let the bullpen get to work, and maybe this Baltimore offense, stays kind of mediocre. So I'm going to lean towards the under there as well. And guys, before we get to the rest of the slate, we do have a giveaway going on right now over on my Instagram. We're giving away an officially licensed NBA or MLB jersey, guys. You guys get to pick the team, the player, the jersey, all that stuff right from the NBA or the MLB store. So head over to my Instagram. It is at EVPICKZ, EVPICKZ, and all you have to do is follow there, and then also DM. You can say anything, DM me hello, or just DM me, hey, I'm entering for the jersey giveaway. Guys, go head over there and follow that. I'll also put that at in the pinned comment here on the video as well, so you guys can do it easily. But yeah, super simple. I'm not exactly sure when we're announcing it, probably at the end of next week, I would say, but we'll keep you guys posted as that. This won't be the first time or the last time you guys hear about it either. So make sure to go follow me on Instagram there. We're posting a lot of our player props and whatnot over on Instagram as well, if you guys are not aware. So it's worth the follow anyways, because you guys find out about those player props, you know, more often than we post them on YouTube. We tend to cater towards, I guess, just being those, you know, the spread, run line, money line, and total type picks on this channel. But yeah, go follow me on Instagram, guys, at EVPICKZ, and enter for the giveaway here. Let's move on here. We're looking at the Mets taking on the Guardians in this one. The Guardians and Mets, both of these teams, I think you could sum up in one word this season: very inconsistent. Now, I just used two words. We'll stick to consistent here. Carrasco on the mound for the Mets, 0-2 with an 8.5 ERA. Quantrill on the mound for the Guardians, 2-2 with a 3.97 ERA, so just under 4 there. He's had a couple good starts in a row. They have won all 3 starts in which he started in his last 3 starts. He's only gotten a win in one of those, a 2-0 win against Minnesota. Carrasco, I'm not really going to put much weight into. He's nothing. He's not really that great. They've lost 2 of the 3 that he started in. He has 2 losses in his last 3 and 1 no decision. I think I'm going to lean towards the Guardians here. Plus 130. I am throwing out a decent amount of underdogs today, but I'm looking for the spots, looking for the good plays. And like I said at the beginning of the video, you got to trust yourself. I'm trusting a Guardians team that, you know, if we were to measure 2 teams' inconsistencies, I think the Guardians somehow have been a little bit less inconsistent or more consistent than the Mets here this season. But these are very 2 similar teams. You know, we're looking at a series here that we could definitely flip-flop and go back and forth on. So hopefully we're starting the flip-flop on the right side. I'm going to lean towards the Guardians, plus 130 on the money line. We're looking at a total of 9 runs. Neither one of these offenses has proven much to me as of late, so though the pitching isn't there for me today to shut down either of these offenses, right, I don't think the offenses are there to take the can off the lid either, so, or take the lid off the can either, so I'm going to lean towards the under. All right, the Braves taking on the Mariners. Braves decent favorites here at home. That line is moving back towards Seattle here. It's actually Braves minus 145 on the money line right now, so it's dropped, you know, a tenth of a, you know, $1 there. And then looking at the pitchers, it's the battle of the Bryces. Bryce Elder on the mound for the Braves, 3-0 with a 1.94 ERA, and then Bryce Miller on the mound for the Braves. He's 2-0 with a .47 ERA this season. He's got 2 wins in a row here, and he's let up a combined in his last 3 starts. Let up a combined 1 run. Bryce Elder in his last 3 starts, 3 runs allowed here. So 2 pitchers that are pitching well and in a little bit of a groove here. I would give Bryce Elder on the Braves side of things a little bit more of a strength of schedule credit here. They've played Miami, Baltimore, and Toronto, whereas Bryce Miller, Detroit, Houston, and Oakland, right? So yeah, even Houston, you know, at that time, you know, earlier this month, would be considered to be struggling just a little bit there. But nonetheless, both pitchers are pitching really well. Miller's whip is way down there. He hasn't even broached past .5 yet, which is pretty damn impressive, and they're big underdogs today. I think the Braves pull this one out, but I really don't mind Seattle on the plus 1.5. When you have 2 pitchers that are dealing, let me just kind of set the scene for you guys, right? This could be a game in which there's not that many runs scored, which again, the total is 8.5. I'm going to get to that in a second. If there's not that many runs scored, there's way more opportunity for this to be a close game. So I don't mind Braves on the money line, but also Seattle on the run line there at plus 1.5. We have a total of 8.5. I'm also looking at the under here. Now, these offenses are trending in a decent direction here. Both of them, you know, have scored double digits in the last 3 games. You know, they've had 1 maybe off game, but that floor is kind of at 4 runs right now. So if their floor is at 4 runs, you know, we're looking at a 5-4 game. Yes, it's going to cash the over. Okay, we want the under. I think that these 2 pitchers can go out there and do their thing. But you really, like I say, if I were to rank my leans on this game, it would go Braves money line, Seattle run line, and then the total. Total at under 8.5 isn't, you know, I don't fancy that the most in this game, but I do think that we're reading this game correctly. And I think it's going to be sort of a slow, kind of grinded out game in terms of runs scored, not these big innings or anything like that, which does aid towards a Seattle plus 1.5 there. So that's what I'm leaning on this game. Very excited about this, actually. I do think it's going to be a good one. And I was excited about that one, but not about this. Rangers taking on the Rockies. We don't know who's pitching for the Rockies just yet. I don't think it's going to matter all that much because Martin Perez is pitching for the Rangers here. He's 4-1 with a 4.25 ERA. I don't think that's really going to matter who the Rockies trot out there at all. I'm going to lean towards Texas. The only problem is they're minus 230. So they could be considered for our parlay of the day here, guys. Remember, keep an eye on the pinned comment for the Friday parlay. Let me know if you're jumping on board with me there. But yeah, I want to know who the Rockies are trotting out there. But to be honest, doesn't matter all that much to me. So I am going to lean towards Texas, but only in some sort of a parlay here. Those odds are nothing when it comes to actually looking at a straight bet here. Then we have a total of 9 runs. So Texas has hit this in 5 of 6 games that they've played in 4 straight games as well. I do think that their offense can get the job done. They've been scoring plenty of runs, except when, what was it? They played, I think, Oakland, right? They scored 11 runs. The next game scored 0 runs. And then, Oakland, I might have that wrong, but Oakland scores 12 runs on them, something like that. Colorado has had a couple big games as of late in terms of a total, but they were playing in Colorado. So in terms of an over here, I am going to slightly lean in that direction, but this is the type of game that wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden, Colorado scores 2 runs, Texas scores 6 runs, they blow them out, but there's no chance for the over there. You know what I mean? So I'm going to lean towards Texas, but again, this is only really like a parlay consideration for me. And speaking of the Athletics, when we were talking about them, we have the Houston Astros taking on the Athletics here. Blelick on the mound for the Astros. He's 0-1 with a 3.29 ERA. Waldichuk on the mound for the Athletics. He's got a great ERA of 7.02 in this one. Again, this is another one where I think I'm only leaning Houston in a parlay scenario. They're actually starting to heat up now. They've won 7 of their last 8 games. They've taken 4 straight games against opponents here. Can you make an argument for their strength of schedule? Sure. The Cubs, I've clearly put more weight into the Cubs than Vegas has, but they just took 3 against the Cubs, but they're big time favorites in all of those games. And yeah, they didn't cover 1 run line there, but they've covered the run line in most of their wins as of late as well. But that minus 250, that minus 230 was last game. Minus 250 is just a little bit too much juice. So maybe this is another throw into the parlay. We'll see, guys. Again, keep an eye on Friday parlay. I've said that so many times today, but we have a couple games today that these odds are just not really worth taking as single bets. So I'm glad we're starting the Friday parlays on this day because we do have plenty of favorites to consider. Then we're looking at a total of 9.5 runs. So I'm not going to put a lot of weight into either one of these starters here. Blelick, as I wouldn't say that he's pitched well. He's only has 2 starts this season. He's pitched, in terms of an ERA, 2 runs, and then, or not an ERA, earned runs, 2 runs and 1 run, but he's only pitching about 4.5 innings. So I'm not going to say that that's all that great. Waldichuk, we know, isn't that great. He's only pitching, 4 to 5 innings a game and letting up 5 runs. So I think that we can look at an over here, hoping that the bats get hot. And we have seen Oakland score, have high totaled games this season already. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for there. And I'm just kind of hoping the Astros continue to do what they do with their bats. Again, their last few games, 6 runs, 7 runs, and 7 runs. They score 7 runs today. I feel pretty good about this over. All right, moving on, and let me give a little credit where it is due. Kansas City taking on the White Sox. Kansas City coming off of 2 straight wins against the Padres here, and they were plus 170 and then plus 230 in those games, and they took the wins there. So I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. Chicago also, let me give them their credit where it's due. They're coming off of a series in which they took 2 of 3 against Cleveland. Now, they were favorites in 2 of those games. They did have one of the games which they're slight underdogs, but I'm giving props to the Royals there. I think that was a pretty good performance, obviously, those last couple nights. Greinke's on the mound for them today. He's 1-4 with a 5.01 ERA. Michael Kopech on the mound for the White Sox today. He's 1-4 with a 5.74 ERA. He hasn't looked all that bad. I think he let up 2 runs through 4 innings his last start, or 2 runs through 5 innings, something like that. And then all of a sudden the bullpen goes and lets them down. And they only scored 1 run for Kopech in that one. So I don't want to blame that loss necessarily on him. I don't think he pitched all that bad either. Averaged about a strikeout per inning as well. So I would say that he's middling the road right now. Greinke, on the other hand, is looking decent. He's not going deep into games, but they've won 2 of his last 3 starts here. This is a game in which I think an argument can be made for both sides. You have the White Sox, who I think are a better team, okay? I know I just gave Kansas City their flowers and they beat the Padres, but the White Sox are a better team. This Kansas City team is one of the worst teams in the league. They're 4-31 this season. Now you're going to laugh when I'm like, the White Sox are a better team. The White Sox are 16-29. So they're not much better, but they are a better team. And minus 118 right now on FanDuel for odds for the money line at home is, that's a pretty fair line as well. But what I like is the fact that Kansas City team has a little bit of momentum. They do have the more experienced pitcher here. So I'm going to lean towards Kansas City, but I think you can tell by the way I'm saying this. I don't think that this is the most confident of lean or picks, and I doubt this game in any way, shape, or form, total run line or money line, gets its way into my final play. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. I lean Kansas City on the money line. That's really all I got. All right, St. Louis taking on the Dodgers here. They're coming off of a big old win yesterday, 16-8. So the Dodgers put up enough runs, right? They put up enough runs, and the St. Louis Cardinals say, you know what? Let's continue to play some good baseball. Matt's on the mound for them today. He's 0-4 with a 5.62 ERA. I feel like that's kind of unfair. His record at least unfair. I feel like he's been pitching a little bit better in his last couple starts than how he started the season. Still 0-4 though, so you can't argue facts. Gonsolin on the mound for the Dodgers, 1-1 with a 1.42 ERA. He's been dealing, 6 strikeouts per game, 0 earned runs over 5.5 innings in his last 2 on average. You really gotta love to see that. And I think this is a bounce back spot for the Dodgers. I think that this Dodgers team is going to be able to get to Mats today. I'm not really fearful of that. And even though they're playing really good baseball, I'm giving them their credit. This is such a spot for regression today against a really good team, because even though the Cardinals are on a heater, like an absolute heater, right? This Dodgers team was playing really good baseball up until, just a couple days ago, right? They have still won 7 of their last 10 games, whereas the Cardinals have won 8 of their last 10. So these two teams are right there in terms of how hot they are, and I do think, obviously, there's a pitching nod for the Dodgers here and a little bit of a revenge spot for them as well. So that's the direction I'm leaning. 8.5 runs. I think you have to lean the over after what we saw last night, right? Like, these bats are hot. These bats are hot for both teams. Just seeing that. I think that Seattle in the last 4 games now have 2 games which have scored 16, or St. Louis, have scored 16 plus runs. That's absolutely absurd. But some teams don't score that, like the Pirates through 10 games. So that is kind of crazy to see, guys. But I do think this one goes up and over. But I really do like the Dodgers on the money line here. I think a lot of people, are going to be on that pick. So maybe it's a fade the public type moment and we don't make it a final play. But I think the St. Louis team, at some point you can't say, okay, we're going to score 16 runs again. Like, if they score 6 runs yesterday, which is a decent amount of runs, they lose that game, which is crazy. All right, Twins playing another Los Angeles team. They're playing the Angels here. Angels coming off of a win yesterday against Baltimore. They win that one 6-5. Minnesota, I do think, as good as they are, they've been in this little bit of a slide. Do you remember, probably 2 weeks ago, they were really, really good. Now they're 24-20. But what I like about them today is Joe Ryan on the mound. He's 6-1 with a 2.16 ERA. And we can talk about, I guess 2 starts ago, where they just gave him no run support, and that was his first loss, 2 starts ago, I believe. Two runs allowed through 6 innings with 4 strikeouts. He was pitching decently, and they gave him 0 runs. So this guy could easily be 7-0 right now. His whip last game was .83. They won 11-1. He had 10 strikeouts through 6 scoreless innings. This is a good spot for them. The fact that you're getting it at -125, I do really like that as well. And obviously the Angels coming off of playing just yesterday. I don't think that matters all that much in baseball, but the Twins did have the day off to kind of get right. And they're playing another LA team. So regardless of that, I do think that we're looking at a game in which favors the Twins here. Again, those odds are too good. -125. We're looking at a total of 8.5 runs. I think that Ryan shuts down the Angels today slightly, but even shutting down the Angels as of late can be 3 runs or so. So I am going to lean towards the over, because I think Minnesota wins this one around 6-3 or 6-4, something like that, where Ryan has a good game, not a stellar 0 runs earned type of a game, but I do think that he goes out there and gets the win while allowing just a couple runs here as the Angels are at home. All right, the Boston Red Sox taking on the Padres here. Blake Snell on the mound for the Padres. He's 1-5 with a 4.61 ERA. James Paxton on the mound for the Red Sox. Obviously, only has 1 start, or not obviously, but if you didn't know, he only has 1 start this season. Hadn't pitched in 2 years before that. Went 5 innings of just 2 earned runs in his comeback, so I don't think that that's all that bad. And that was kind of the start of, I guess I shouldn't say the start, that was at the beginning of the St. Louis sort of tear that they've been on as well. So he went up against a really good team, and the bullpen kind of just blew it. He had 9 strikeouts in that game, and we're looking at a Red Sox team that are pretty damn big underdogs here, and I don't necessarily like that I don't necessarily like that. I don't think that's a correct line there. I think that this is a Red Sox team that's shown that they can kind of keep up with any team. You have a Padres team that's coming off of losing a couple games against the Royals, so something, the screws are falling off a little bit there. Boston wins a series in which they're underdogs for most of it against the Seattle Mariners. I like Red Sox in this one, and I'm not biased. I'm a Red Sox fan, but, it's not like the Celtics here. That Celtics team I would die for, right? stay tuned for the NBA video today. But, I like the Red Sox here. Plus 127 over on FanDuel right now on the money line. I kind of trust Paxton, and I've said it all along. I trust this Red Sox team offensively as well. So that over 8, I think that one goes up and over as well. I think both of these pitchers, even though Paxton was dealing, for 5 innings or so, Blake Snell, I wouldn't necessarily say that he's really got his what together. He's letting up through 5-6 innings, 3 to 2 runs every single game, and in the bullpen, we've seen what happens there too. So I like the over 8 runs in this one as well. In our last game of the day, guys, coming to you by way of the Giants and the Marlins here. Giants and Marlins are really kind of a pick-em spot here. DeSclafani is on the mound for the Giants, 3-3 with a 3.06 ERA. Sandy Alcantara on the mound, 1-4 with a 5.08 ERA, and they're just losing every single time this guy pitches. And they are underdogs today, even though they've won 4 straight games here. It was against Cincinnati, and then, like I said earlier in the video, they swept Washington. I don't want to put too much weight into that. This is San Francisco team just swept Philadelphia, and I think that is sort of a more telling series in terms of where these two teams are trending. That being said, guys, and I might be crazy, but Sandy Alcantara against the Giants team that isn't all that good, right? You have a Cy Young-esque pitcher as an underdog against a Giants team that can easily be beat. I'm going to do the crazy thing, and I'm going to lean towards Miami on the money line here. I think that this could be a pick in which I'm reading a little bit too much into it, or trusting a guy that has not pitched well this season, really, you know what I mean? And yes, there's been games where they don't score for him, but nonetheless, a 5.08 ERA and a 1-4 record this season. I could be the dummy in the room, but that is the direction we're going to lean in. The play that I actually do think that make a good splash as a final player is going to be the over 7.5 runs. Meteorologist Ev reporting for duty. Here I am. How you doing? We got a 17-mile-an-hour wind at least forecasted right now at game time, blowing directly out to center field. So I do think that this is a good spot for an over. Maybe we get a couple extra home runs that we don't normally see. Ev, back to you with sports. Thanks, Ev. Guys, I do think that that's going to wrap it up for today's video. I do think that, we need some bounce back. We need some good vibes. All the hate in the comments, you guys are just hurting yourselves because it's not bothering me. So I don't know what, you're wasting your little fingers there. And hopefully, that doesn't come back to bite you in, karma standpoint. But guys, hopefully you guys do have a good day, a good Friday. And keep an eye out for that Friday parlay and go enter the giveaway as well. But we'll catch you guys in the next video, all right? Peace out.